Oliver, a whirlwind of a boy, loved a good challenge. He craved adventure. So when his friends mentioned their love for gourmet food, Oliver had an idea. A grand, slightly crazy idea. He'd cook them a meal, a fancy one, the fanciest they'd ever seen. There was just one tiny problem. Oliver's cooking experience was limited, to put it mildly. He once boiled an egg. It exploded. But, fueled by enthusiasm, and perhaps a touch of naivete, Oliver dove headfirst into his culinary quest. This would be epic. Armed with a shopping list as long as his arm, Oliver marched into the supermarket. He grabbed exotic vegetables he'd never even heard of. He sniffed suspiciously at cheeses with unpronounceable names. He even bought a whole fish, its eyes staring at him accusingly. The cashier raised an eyebrow as Oliver heaved his mountain of groceries onto the conveyor belt. Oliver, oblivious, just grinned with the confidence of a seasoned chef. Back home, Oliver surveyed his battlefield, the kitchen. He'd pulled out every pot and pan he owned. Flour dusted the counters like snow. The recipe book lay open, its pages already splattered with questionable stains. He started chopping vegetables, his knife skills more enthusiastic than accurate. He attempted to decipher the recipe's cryptic instructions, muttering to himself like a mad scientist. The air filled with the sizzle of onions, the clang of pots, and the occasional yelp as Oliver bravely battled his culinary nemesis, the potato peeler. The grand finale, the pièce de résistance, was to be a soufflé. Oliver had heard tales of these majestic dishes, rising like fluffy clouds. He imagined his friends gasping in awe as he presented this culinary masterpiece. He carefully separated eggs, the whites quivering precariously in a bowl. He folded in chocolate with the precision of a brain surgeon. With a final hopeful pat, he slid the soufflé into the oven. He'd done it, or so he thought. Section 5. Disaster Strikes. Oliver, feeling quite pleased with himself, began setting the table. He carefully arranged his grandmother's best china, the kind that looked like it might shatter if you breathed on it too hard. He lit candles, dimmed the lights, and even put on some fancy music. Just as he placed the last fork, a blood-curdling scream erupted from the kitchen. Not a human scream, mind you, but the scream of a tortured soufflé. Oliver raced back to find his once proud creation slumped in the oven, a deflated, chocolatey mess. Section 6. A Symphony of Smells. The doorbell rang. His friends had arrived. Oliver stared at the disaster in the oven, then at the chaotic kitchen around him. A wave of defeat washed over him. The smell of burnt soufflé mingled with the aroma of overcooked onions and something else entirely unidentifiable. His friends, drawn by the unusual scents, poked their heads into the kitchen. They surveyed the scene, their eyes widening. Oliver braced himself for their judgment, for the teasing he was sure would come. But something unexpected happened. Instead of laughing, his friends jumped into action. They rolled up their sleeves, tied on aprons, and began turning the culinary wreckage into something edible. They rescued what they could from the overcooked dishes, salvaged the salad, and even managed to turn the remnants of the deflated soufflé into a surprisingly delicious chocolate sauce. The kitchen, once a war zone, was now filled with laughter and the comforting clinking of forks and spoons. As they sat down to eat, Oliver couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity of it all. His grand culinary vision lay in ruins, but in its place was something much more valuable, a shared experience, a good story, and a reminder that even disasters can be delicious. He'd wanted to impress his friends with his culinary prowess, but they ended up impressing him with their kindness and their ability to find humor in the midst of chaos. That night, as they finished off the last of the impromptu chocolate sauce, Oliver realized something important. Life wasn't about perfectly executed soufflés or Michelin star meals. It was about embracing the unexpected, learning from mistakes, and finding joy in the journey, even when it's messy and unpredictable. Oliver raised his glass to burnt soufflés, kitchen chaos, and the friends who help you clean it all up. His friends, wiping tears of laughter from their eyes, raised their glasses in return. It was, without a doubt, a meal they'd never forget. And Oliver, the boy who loved a good challenge, realized that sometimes the greatest adventure is learning to laugh at yourself.